Welcome back, everyone. This should be the last episode on the 20-ton hydraulic press. As you see, I'm outside and I'm going to take care, now that the whole thing is built, I did decide to go ahead and sandblast the whole thing so I get good adherence on the paint. So we're going to get going here on the blasting and the painting, and then I'll do a wrap up on the cost. So I think it's a Massey Ferguson red, so I'm going to set the camera back here a ways and to keep it from getting overspray or blasted. So hopefully you'll still get a pretty good view, and we'll get going and see how the blasting turns out. I was just checking on the compressor. It just shut off. It actually was only down to about 100 psi when I stopped there, so it almost keeps up, which that's a huge giant gaping hole basically in the end of the hose. So I'll give it a break about in that same amount of time interval to recover, but that got me almost half. And as you can see, I'm not blasting it down to gray metal since it was already brand new steel. Basically all I'm trying to do is just put a rough, knock off any of the welding smoke that I couldn't get to with the flap disc, and any of the smooth stuff, just put a little bit of an etch on it. When I get done, I'll get you a little bit closer look so you can see the kind of the texture it left. I don't know if you can make it out from that far away, but I did tape up the wheels to keep the sand out of the bearings. Plus, I don't want to paint the wheels. I want to leave them the same. And then any other, the cylinder, for example, I taped up the fitting on that, etc. So, in the cylinder, I just scuffed it with some sandpaper, so I don't have to blast it. I'll just be blasting all of the bare metal parts. I'm out of sand. I had the hopper only about half full. I put about 20 pounds in, so I'll get that topped off. Any of you are wondering what I'm using for media, of course there's all kinds of media, glass beads, garnet, walnut shell, all kinds of stuff. This is coal slag. I buy it because it does the job. It's pretty aggressive. It's really inexpensive. Let you just kind of see what it looks like. It's just black. It's really, really sharp, so works great for this. And a 50-pound bag is like $12, so it's really inexpensive compared to other products. But I tell you, that's like being inside of a plastic bag. There's vents in that hood, but frankly, they don't do anything. So within a couple minutes, your sweat's running off of your nose, but at least I'm not all gritty. So let's take a closer look. I don't see any grit on the camera or the tripod, so that's good. So again, I wasn't shooting for bare metal, but you can see it's definitely got a little bit of a tooth to it. Any place there was weld beads, I hit those good. So especially the rollers, because they were already really smooth. These pins were really, really smooth, and you can see they've got a definitely got a rust surface to them. So, all right, so that's that part done. I'm gonna get it all blowed off here as much as I can, and then I'll rinse it off with some solvent before I shoot the paint, and I'll bring you back. All right, I got the paint mixed up. I'm gonna close the shop door, and we're gonna get going. We'll see how it turns out. Okay, as you can see, the first coat is down. It'll take 2 coats. I thinned it out so make sure it flowed good, so you can tell it's a little mottled in places, but the second coat will take care of that. So I'm going to give this a chance to kick, and then I will bring you back for the second coat. Okay, so the second coat is down. Let me flip you around here, and so all the splotchiness is now gone with the second coat. A couple areas I put even a third coat on, areas that are going to catch a lot of wear and tear. For painting outside with just farm and ranch paint, looks pretty decent. So I'll let this, where this is not catalyzed paint, it takes it, I like to give it a good 24 plus hours to dry really well. And then I'll start on assembly. Okay, so while I was painting, there was a little bit of gray clouds in the air, and I was afraid it was going to rain, but I got lucky and the rain held off, so I was able to leave the parts outside for the paint to cure versus trying to move them inside when they were still sticky. So that went well. Got them moved inside, let them cure a couple days, because it's just farm and implement paint I was using, which isn't catalyzed, so it takes a little while for it to kick off and dry hard. So that's all done. So I brought all the pieces inside. Off camera, I put the press together because realistically, other than putting the table on there and the pins in there to hold the table, that's about the extent of it. So it's all done now. The pump did come. That's just a matter of attaching the hose. It comes with a hose kit, matter of screwing the hose into the cylinder and the hose into the pump and putting in the style of quick disconnect that I use for air. So that's all done. So I'm going to swing you around here and we will kind of take a look at how it turned out and the different features. So we'll start at the top. I got the handle on that you see me fabricate. It's on there, it's bolted on. I think I'll touch on the straps first. So basically I just took that nylon strapping that I talked about purchasing, went in the house, you should be able to see there, just looped it, made a big loop in it and sewed it with a kind of a zigzag style stitch like you would see kind of on a recovery strap, but it doesn't have to hold much weight at all. And then, as I mentioned, that just slips over this third alignment pin that goes across this wear or this round, and with the paint on it, it's super slick. So I don't think that's going to be a baby over after raising lowering this 100 times. It might start to wear the paint, but that isn't going to hurt a thing at all. And then it goes onto the drum, as you can see there. As I mentioned, I fished it through the center of the drum. So as I crank the wheel, one strap is on the top, one strap is on the bottom. I'll bring you around the other side here. So you can see how this strap's on the bottom and it just winds up on there. There's the hydraulic connection. Right now I've just got the hose looped over. I think at some point, because I do have a gauge that I like to put on it. That way you can convert the pressure reading on the gauge to how many tons. But I wanted to hook it up and test it. So I think I probably will come out of the fitting of, there's enough room here on this strap that I could sneak a bulkhead fitting and a running T out here. So then I could put a gauge right about here and then run the hose straight down. So right now there's not a gauge on it, but there will be. I am going to keep my push plates off of the old press. I'll be putting the old Harbor Freight up for sale probably on Marketplace. So somebody will be able to pick that up pretty cheap. Let's see here. So the tool tray, you've seen that before the paint was on there. I just got a couple push pins on there that swings like we planned, so I can swing it over there when I'm using the press, and when I'm not using anymore, that swings on the inside, keeps the stuff out of the way so it doesn't take up as much space. Regarding raising and lowering, I'll show you that, I guess. So right now I left it to where the straps aren't holding the weight, but they're just enough tension to where it doesn't get loose on the winch and kind of want a bird's nest. So I'll pick up the weight on it to the next latch position, which unloads the pins. So there I came up about an inch or so to where you then could pull the pins out, move those down to whatever hole you want. Try to pan you back here to where you can see everything. So you just take the tension off, release that latch. Let the winch down till it gets the next set of pins. Re-engage it, like I said, to keep the straps a little bit taut. And so that worked out really well. I could have maybe used a little bit longer handle. Part of it is there's these push plates on there, which those things are pretty heavy. So if I ever did it again, or if somebody does something similar, you might make the crank handle a little bit longer. So let's, I don't have anything to test right now or anything to press, but I'll still, the pump is hooked up. Oh, the last thing I'll show you, I guess, is that I did decide to just go with the air pump versus I can't remember in the original design, if I talk about, I was contemplating a 120 volt AC reservoir pump unit like you would see on a vehicle hoist or things like that. So you would just flip that switch, that pump runs continuously, and then it had a little joystick control that you can raise and lower the cylinder. They're about almost better than twice what an air over hydraulic pump cost. Really the only advantage to them is they're you could be utilizing maybe for some other things, but at any rate, to try to keep the cost down a little bit, I went with the air over hydraulic treadle valve pump. So I'll pan you down, take a look at that. There's lots of different brands of these out there. Pretty much all of them are rated at 10,000 psi, which is for most presses, when they talk about 12 tons or 20 tons or whatever it is, they're basing it off of a 10,000 psi pump, and then the surface area of the piston and the ram would be the appropriate number of square inches at 10,000 psi to create that tonnage. Excuse me. So anyway, you just connect air to that, and this is a treadle valve like a gas pedal on a car. So when you push on this side, the pump runs, and then if you put your toe up on the other part and push forward, that releases it. And until you release it, the cylinder stays wherever it's at. So if you wanted to push to a certain depth and you don't want the cylinder springing back, you just relax your foot, it stops pumping, and then it holds that position until you rock the treadle forward the other way. So I'll kind of zoom in here so you can see the cylinder, and we will lower you down. And typical press cylinders have a spring built inside of the cylinder, and that's what retracts it. The Harbor Freight ones, since they use just a bottle jack, they've got two springs on the framework that pulls it back up. But these have it's only a one-way pump. You don't need it two-way, and so when you hit the release, that spring that's inside of there retracts the piston back up inside the cylinder bore. So anyway, that is the finished product. I will pause it here for a second and bring back the dry erase board and kind of do like I did on the trailer. I'll give you a recap of what my costs were that I had into it, and then we'll talk about whether or not I could have bought something equivalent to this for the similar price, less or more. Be back in a sec. Okay, so now that the press is completed, other than possibly me adding that pressure gauge later on, if I do, I'll just bring you back at some point and give you a quick glimpse of that. So all that's left to go over is the cost to compare whether it was better to build it or should I have bought it. So I'll swing you around here on the dry erase board and we'll talk about what the costs were for all of the items purchased. So the steel, of course, with inflation, steel's been going up steadily for the past 3-4 years anyway, but steel's just going crazy of late. So I bought a full stick of the channel, which I designed it around one 20-foot stick to make it as large as I could, as tall as I could, without having to buy another piece. So it basically consumed that full stick of channel. I also bought a full stick of the angle iron, but for the base, but I used maybe, I'm just looking at it, probably 7 or 8 feet of that. So that was 10 foot left over. So that kind of compensated for some of the other steel that I used here in the shop. So the steel price came in at $300 is the most expensive item. The next most expensive item was the air over hydraulic pump. That was $120. The casters were $25. That was the full price. I only used 3 of them, but what's one caster going to do you any good? So it's for the most part waste until I buy another or build another project with 3, and then I might have 2 left over. The nylon strap was a whole whopping $7. That 20-ton ram was $92. And then the miscellaneous hardware, nuts and bolts and stuff that I used here that I had in the shop was $25. So that brings me to a total as-built cost of $569. So what does one cost to buy? This next line here, I've just got a range of 825 to 1500. So one thing, keep in mind, because there might be some of you who say, oh, I bought my press for $270 or whatever of a Vevor. Yes, you very well did, because the Harbor Freights are about $250, but that's just a hydraulic bottle jack in a, in my opinion, a very light duty frame. So to find the cheapest hydraulic 20-ton hydraulic press I could find online that had a legitimate cylinder or ram with a air operated pump, it didn't appear, and it was, the frame was very similar to a Harbor Freight frame, so a lighter frame. It did not have any kind of a table raising and lowering thing. It did not have the swing out tray, things like that. That was $825 for the absolute cheapest one I could find. I actually had a hard time. I couldn't find any in the 20-ton size with a raising and lowering winch. I guess they make them on a lot bigger presses. The press, my press at work it has one of those. So that's really a feature that's hard to put a dollar value on. But I seen presses of comparable, what I felt was comparable material used, comparable size, weight, and design in the $1,500 range. So savings at the absolute minimum, I'm looking at about a $250 savings, potentially close to $1,000 savings to get a comparable press. So just another example, if you have the skills and the desire to build something for yourself versus buying it, even the offshore stuff, in most cases you can build it, the key being better quality for the same money or less money. Ultimately you can spend less money on inexpensive stuff. I'll kind of give you an example of that. I have a lot of top quality or top name brand tooling, but I also don't have a problem with buying some stuff that's not. For instance, my almost all of my angle grinders are Harbor Freight. When they run them on sale, you can go buy one for $20. I have some of them that are probably 15 years old that are still working fine, other than I think I did a video on the cords are pretty weak and they at the strain relief, and they'll eventually break a wire, but that's a 15-minute fix. So I find it easier just to go buy 4 or 5, 6 of those, have a different wheel on every one, and grab one of them for less money than what a name brand grinder would cost. So anyway, it depends on what you're building, what kind of quality you want, will dictate whether or not you yourself could build it cheaper than buying it. So anyway, the episode, as I mentioned, I think in the last episode, or I might have mentioned at the beginning of this one, my next project is going to be a set of cornhole boards. I'm going to make those out of hard maple with some black walnut highlights, and then I've got a skin I'm going to put over the top. So I'm going to pick up on that. The next episode will be kicking that one off. Again, appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos. It does really help when you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Thank you.